More than 10,000 signatures against proposed parking charges at beaches and open spaces were handed in to Poole Borough Council last week. The council wants to introduce pay and display parking at beach car parks, open spaces and recreation grounds, which are currently free. There are concerns that, despite overwhelming public opposition, the Conservative Cabinet can, and most probably will, approve the move without a public meeting. Our Dorset political reporter Tristan Pascoe took his dog Kramer for a stroll at the beach in Hamworthy to find out more.
If approved, the plans mean people will have to pay to park at and visit places like these, where until now it's been free. Objectors are concerned that it'll force motorists to look for alternative free parking nearby. But the main concern of opponents is that people will be deprived of free access to beaches, parks and open spaces.
Totally against it. It's taken away people's rights to use open spaces.
To have actually somewhere that's free is so rare, it would be nice to keep it.
Petition here to present to the council.
The 10,000 signature petitions, the biggest on a single issue the council's ever received, reflects the genuine anger among local people.
I think it's wrong. Our family has been going to the beach for generations. My grandmother, who's 88, still goes swimming every day during the summer. We're not rich, you know, people have this perception that you're from Poole, you're rich from affluent, but no, we're a normal family. We can't afford to go abroad, and so our holiday in the summer and half terms are at the beach.
And it's not just families that are concerned.
Lovely day for it.
There are a host of leisure activities that would be affected by these parking changes, from cricketers using the recreation ground, dog walkers, leisure sailors, kayakers and canoeists. In fact, it's more expensive to park than it is to take up a course in learning how to use a canoe. Enough, some say, to make them feel sick. Actually, I do feel a bit sick now, lads. Could you just rock it a little bit less? Thanks.
The club, Poole Harbour Canoe Club, has always prided itself in being able to offer affordable access to canoeing to people of all ages and all abilities. That's what we're about, that's what we do. But the threat of the introduction of parking charges is really going to undermine our ability to continue to do that. The parking is going to be considerably more expensive than the canoeing. That can't be right.
At full council last month, the opposition tried to force the Conservative leadership into holding a public debate on the charges, where many of the 10,000 objectors could attend, but to no avail. The matter now goes to the Place Overview and Scrutiny Committee, where it's likely to be recommended for approval from the Conservative Cabinet.
It was absolute shambles on that council meeting. No debate at all, trying to sideline everyone, and really, democracy is dead in Poole. Tories do just what they want.
We listen, we respect it, and that's...
Back at Hamworthy Rec, the Conservative Cabinet member for Transport met with one of the petitioners. You could stop this, couldn't you?
Well, absolutely. The cabinet are responsible for putting, you know, for agreeing this, and we're not going to shirk that responsibility. It's about us getting the right balance. At the moment, nothing is before us. What the next step is to receive a consultation, receive the petitions. Let's discuss them and debate them, and then we can see what we actually want to bring forward.
Oh well, it would be more reassuring to say we've listened. We'll move on to another idea. You know, I think that's what the people are wanting to hear. Is it reassuring? Not overly for me.
The council says it needs the parking revenue to support other frontline services, but campaigners say the authority has to respect the wishes of so many people.
People expect, don't they, that they're going to be able to continue in the way they have, and yes, there's squeeze on local government at the moment, but to not seem to listen to the public, it's important, surely.
If you're going to put change through, then you've got to do it in a way that engages people, involves them, explains properly. And it sounds as though that hasn't really happened in Poole. And that's what Mike Brooke, the Lib Dem leader, was saying there.
And car parking in particular, Tony, it's one of those things that people really care about. If they're used to walking their dog every day and parking the car there, and now they can't at all.
It's obviously going to arouse controversy, but the key point is, of course, that all local authorities are under huge pressure
as a result of government cuts, and these are the sorts of initiatives that councils are looking at. But as Keith rightly says, you have to prepare the ground carefully, particularly around the new introduction of parking charges. My advice to them would be to look at some sort of arrangement whereby perhaps the first couple of hours are free, and whether they're looking to deter all-day parking, I don't know. But clearly there needs to be
some
sensitivity, and that appears to have passed by here.
It's listening to people. That's the thing people want to see.
I was saying earlier, at the end of the day, listen to what people want. I back free parking. I tell you why, it makes business sense. Traders know nothing attracts customers as easy as free, available parking.
They do it in West Oxfordshire, and David Cameron's constituency have done for years.
Indeed, so it works.
That, by the way.
And if you listen to these traders, I think there's a lot to be learned from them. So free parking makes good business sense, and that's what I back.
There's been a few U-turns at central government, hasn't there? You know, we've seen the junior doctors, you know, seen academisation, and that was partly because of Conservative pressure as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think on this parking issue in Poole, there's two things that are really, really important. The first one is that it went through a public cabinet meeting where they would have published those papers, you know, at least 7 days, maybe 2 weeks beforehand.
10,000 names.
Yeah, OK. So the correct procedure is now taking place. The cabinet took a public decision where people could have come and spoken. At that point, they didn't. They mobilised their campaign after the decision had been taken, and now it's quite rightly going through a scrutiny committee for them to review. But actually, I think the important thing, and we're in the same position here, Southampton, Portsmouth, all the major towns and cities across the country are now trying to raise income through parking. What I think the public need to realise is, and maybe Paul could say to them, well, look, if we don't introduce the parking charges, we won't raise the £180,000 we wanted to raise over the next year, and therefore, instead, we may have to close some libraries or a hostel or a women's refuge or whatever it may be. Give the public the alternatives, give them the choices, and let them make their decision.
Right. It's a good example, I think, though, of how people really care about those local decisions, and that's the thing that matters to them. So that's the Sunday Politics for this week in the South. Thank you to my guests, Donna Jones from Southampton, Mike Lennon from West Sussex, Keith House from Eastleigh and Tony Page from Reading. You can keep up with Southern politics by reading my blog. There's the address at the bottom of the screen. But for now, though, it's back to Andrew.